Hey there, and welcome to the podcast Tiling Connect, hosted by Mark Moskwa. This show is designed to connect people with the best information intended to strengthen the business of tiling. To keep up to date with all the episodes, don't forget to subscribe.
Today's episode is brought to you by RLA Polymers and Gripset. For peace of mind when waterproofing, trust Gripset's 38FC, the king of membranes. 38FC has been the industry benchmark for years and is rigorously tested internally and through certified NADA laboratories, giving you verified peace of mind. Developed alongside contractors, 38FC has confirmed coverage of 10 square metres per pale and adheres to AS 4858 and AS 4654 compliance. With a quick 1 hour recode time, you can get the job done in record speed without compromising on quality. Don't fall for the copycat products. Trust Gripset's 38FC, the king of membranes. Hey everybody, Mark here from Tiling Connect. Welcome back to the program. More importantly, welcome back to the show. We have another incredible guest joining us on the show today. We have Agostino, all the way from, I think it's definitely Western Australia, and I'm pretty sure it's Perth. So Adam joins us with a wealth of knowledge as a ex-contractor, tiling contractor, and is currently today a TAFE lecturer at the North Metro Institute of TAFE. I think I've got that right now. I'm sure that if I haven't, Adam is going to pick me up and let me know. But hey, mate, welcome to the program.
No, you've nailed it, Mark. Thanks for having us. Yeah, been really looking forward to this. So yeah, thanks for the intro.
Mate, you're very welcome. And we've been meaning to get someone from the TAFE Institute on for some time, and I think it's a really important topic to have a chat about today, particularly given that a lot of the TAFE lecturers that I know of around the country have been on the tools in their past life and have then transitioned into teaching that art and craft to the younger students that are coming through the network, which is awesome. So I think the best place for us to start, mate, is your transition from being a hands-on tiler to a teacher at TAFE. Let's talk about that and, share some of your journey with us and how it all happened and how did making the shift away from the tools to the classroom was for you.
Yeah, happy to talk about that. It is funny how things sort of work out. I definitely never really thought about TAFE lecturing at all during my career. So I'm probably 22 years of tiling now. And I'm 40, so it's been my one and only career. It's the thing that I know, and that's about it. And so, I ran a business called Stone Art Tiling, and a small business, had a business partner who was a really good friend of mine, and we had two tradesmen that we taught from, like, young kids, like apprentices. Yeah, so they stayed on with us as tradesmen. So it was a small little sort of family business, felt like a family business. And we worked on pretty much exclusively large residential projects. So there's a little bit of a geographical quirk in Perth. They call it the Golden Triangle, and it's sort of like your properties along the coast. So from like City Beach to Cottesloe, back to the river, across Mosman Park, Peppermint Grove, those sort of areas. And that's where we spent our career, just working on those projects. But stuff changes. My business partner was a little bit older than me. He retired, still great friends. And the two boys that were working with us were like mid-20s, so they went on to bigger and better things, as you'd hope that they would do. And it was probably that point that I was sort of thinking, what's the next step? I can't tile these homes on my own. Do I start all over again, building a bit of a team? And I just sort of Googled TAFE lecturing. I don't even really remember what prompted that, but there was a casual pool going, and I entered into that and got a casual position. So I just did that for a little while, casual lecturing, for about a year and a half. But I pretty much knew straight away this was what I wanted to do. It was really cool. And you think about tiling, and if you're watching this show, you love tiling. You probably wouldn't be watching this show if you didn't. And tiling's been so good to me. I've been able to look after my family financially with it. But I've also made like heaps of friends in the industry as well. Mm. And so to be able to feel like I'm giving something back, or just to be able to introduce someone new to the industry, it's an awesome feeling. And just never look back, and working full time now for the last sort of year and a half. So yeah, that's the story.
Wow, man. And such a cool story, right? Like in particularly when you love something as much as tiling, or it could be another trade, and then having the opportunity to literally then teach it to younger people coming through the network. No better feeling, right? So very, very cool. Mate, when you were tiling, let's just touch on that just for a second. Obviously 20 years tiling?
Yeah, 22. I was about 18 when I started. Yeah.
So what was the type of work that you were doing? Was it mainly residential, or was it a mix of commercial, residential and high-rise developments? Or
we did do, it was pretty much exclusively like high-end residential. We also did some showrooms for high-end cars like Lamborghini and Ferrari and those sort of places as well. But that was like a bit of more of a one-off. So we didn't have a lot of experience in the commercial side of things. But yeah, the residential side, I started my tiling career in Margaret River, which is south of Perth.
Yep.
And the builder that I worked for then ended up coming up to Perth, and he was doing a lot of sort of more exclusive homes down there, and he just continued that up here. I found that gave me a lot of security as a tiler. We were a small business. We weren't trying to take over the world. We just wanted to do some nice tiling work, and to be able to be on projects that ran for 9 months to a year each time, it just, for my own personality, it just worked for me. And we got to work with just such a different range of tiles. We sort of, like my business was stone art tiling. It was mainly stone that we worked with, but it was also glass mosaics, stainless steel mosaics, up to the large laminum curlite, 3 metre by 1 metre sheets. And that's kind of what prompted me to get into lecturing, was that I felt that I'd sort of seen a lot and I might have had something to offer, sort of thing.
Very cool, mate. I love it. And I'm sure we'll deep dive a little bit more today on that tiling career as we deep dive into some more questions. So let's look at your experience on the job site, right? And use that as, I suppose, how does that influence the way you approach teaching today's apprentices? So, I suppose bringing real life stories and advice to the textbook sort of classroom environment, although I know, not everyone knows, but it's not necessarily always a textbook environment. There is a lot of practical at TAFE. So give us a look on your teaching style and how you go about educating the next generation of tilers.
Yeah, so just to fill everyone in on how it does work, say you look at a Cert 3 qualification in wall and floor tiling, that's the qualification that most tilers will hold. It's sort of broken up into 20 kind of mini courses. We call them units of competency. And each one of those units will have a theory component and a practical component. So when we're talking about vocational education training or vet training, we're training you to do the job. It's not a concept of the ideas behind it. You need to actually be able to do it. So there's that theory component, but the practical, doing it is the key. So our experience pretty much in industry drives everything we do, and that's across the lecturers that I work with as well. They're all super passionate tilers, and their experience drives everything we do. So being an employer in the past, only have a few employees, but being an employer, I knew the kind of things that I really valued in an employee or valued in an apprentice. So it's going to look different for the different quals. So if you're delivering to a school student doing a vet in school program or a pre-apprentice, you're trying to teach them what a tradesman requires of them. So you're teaching them how to mix a really good bucket of glue. So when your tiler gets that, he's not got that powder at the bottom that he's like shaking his head going, what's going on? How to mix screed, how to load up a room, how to slurry a floor and load up a room with the right amount of screed. Just all these sort of things. How to work hard for a day. We're obviously doing a lot of tiling with them, but so they can understand the tools and that process. But then when we're moving to apprentices, then we're looking at, how do you set up a set of stairs? How do you tile a swimming pool? And all the technical requirements that go with that. So there is a lot that goes into it. As far as stories and stuff go, they only want to hear the stuff that you've stuffed up. They're the stories they want to know. And, as a lecturer, you've totally got to humble yourself in that space because they love it. I can
imagine.
And, if you can tell them a story about the time you stuffed up a bathroom set out, or because we've all been there, right? We're not perfect tilers. They love that. And you're actually maybe getting them to avoid doing something that you did And, you're helping them out in that space. And it kind of helps you connect with a student as well. Like if you're not putting yourself up here on a pedestal, like, I'm this perfect tiler and you're lucky to have me, but I'm just we're all in the same boat here. We're all just trying to do a good job. You can really connect with students, and those relationships last a really long time. It's really cool.
Yeah, look, that's a pretty awesome platform to have, is that you can share experiences where things just haven't gone well and haven't gone right, because they're some of the greatest lessons that we learn in life, whether it's tiling or whether it's outside of the job site. Those are the lessons that we a lot of times we'll sit back and go, yeah, that didn't go according to plan. What can I learn from this so that I don't make that same mistake again? And that should just be a mantra for life, right? For everything that we do. So, kudos to you for sharing those stories, mate. Okay, that's cool. So we've got a bit of a deeper look in on the quals and how it all works, and so from your perspective and the experience that you've had in the industry, and we've had a lot of tilers on the program, what would you think are the most critical skills that young tilers need to succeed in the trade today? Yeah,
look, I'm big on hand skills just for us as a starting point. I think we got to remember too, like the people that do the lion's share of apprentice training are their employers. So like we love the employers that take on these apprentices because they're doing an awesome job out there, and it's a big commitment for them to do that. So that's where they're doing the majority of their training, is they're doing that on site. But every business is structured differently. So you might have an apprentice who's one-on-one with his employer. It's just the two of them, and he's learning a lot really quickly. So he might be laying tiles or screeding floors and all those sort of things really quickly. Or you might have an apprentice that's in a big team that's maybe doing a lot of grouting, a lot of mixing screed, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's probably getting really efficient at those tasks, but there is a bit of a gap in hand skills there. So, yeah, at TAFE, they get that opportunity to work and screed and tile a bath or whatever it might be, so they can get their hand skills up. So there's a huge importance on that. But every lecturer's got their little thing that they think's really important. And I think mine, and I think most of the lecturers would say this about me, is I'm really big on maths and calc, or measurements and calculations.
Yeah.
I think that if you've got a really strong grasp of that, it gives you confidence. And a lot of the guys and girls that are coming through the course lack confidence in that area. Maybe they've been told at school that they're not good at it, but that's not actually the case. Maybe they've just not used it in a practical sense. So, if you've got a strong grasp of your measurements and calculations, then you're going to be more confident doing a quote, more confident buying materials, cutting a tile, measuring. I think the lights just went off in here, but I don't know what happened then.
You're fine, mate. I can still see you.
You can still see me. That's good.
Yeah. And he.
Yeah. So that's one that I spend a lot of time on with my students. Like we're doing that pretty much day one. Where we're looking at that. Like the first thing, I spend a lot of time in the Cert 2 space, so the pre-apprentices and vetting school students. The first thing I hand them is a set of elevation plans with a bunch of measurements on it. And they don't know what they're looking at necessarily, but they stick that on the wall in their tiling bay, and that's what they have to deliver. So they need to learn that stuff day one. We're going through all the measurements. We're putting tapes on things. We're learning how measuring tapes work, how to hold them. You've really got to start at the basics to give these kids a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
But that's my one that I spend a lot of time in. I think if you've got a grasp of that, you can set up a set of stairs, you can set heights on a balcony. It's empowering knowing how to calculate things on a building site.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, they are some quintessentially important characteristics that you need to have in doing tiling and doing most trades. And I think we saw plenty of examples of that at World Skills this year when I was there with the teachers, and there was you could see the students, even the first and second year or even third year apprentices that were out in the world with employers. It had been drilled into them about that sort of part of, their work. And it was clear as day. There was a lot of measuring and a lot of looking at the takeoffs and a lot of back and forth. They were bouncing around like jelly beans at one stage in between mixing glue and measuring walls and cutting tiles and then checking plans. And it was pretty awesome to see.
I think there'd be a lot of qualified tilers looking at those projects going, okay, fair enough. Like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It was pretty complicated stuff they were doing.
Yeah, I agree. And further to that point of the types of skills that they need, is there a section, or can you expand on, is there a section that touches on, business and communication within the Cert 2 or Cert 3? Is that part of that as well?
Yeah, so there's an entire unit entitled Communication in the Construction Industry.
Yep.
So that unit sort of starts out with a bit of a who's who, like who are we talking to on building sites? Who are we actually liaising with when we go onto a building site? How do we communicate even with our tradespersons? So if I'm delivering that to a Cert 2, the communication is really between you and the tradesperson you're working with, and how you can get effective, like active listening happening, like when they're talking to you, and then communicate back to them. As far as business goes, there isn't a specific unit in our Cert 3 right now that talks about that. But towards the end of the apprenticeship, we're having conversations with our apprentices about that kind of thing, because a lot of the employers offer the apprenticeship, but they might not be in a situation where they can have a tradesman working for them. They just might not be in that situation. So we want to set our apprentices up to be able to step into, even if it's just working for a tile shop, as a contractor, something like that, give them that confidence. And so I just talk about my own experiences like that. I ran a very, very modest business, and I think that's where probably most are going to start. And so I just sort of share my own personal experience with them,
Yeah, and look, I mean, and thanks for sharing, mate. And look, how important do you think it is, given your experience both as a contractor and now a TAFE lecturer, how important do you think it is for someone to actually go out there and seek out those sort of environments where they can learn more about, communication skills and business tips and tricks? And, do you have any secrets that you can share with the community now?
Well, look, that's probably the one thing that I wish I'd have done more of as a younger tiler, is had someone who understood the business side of things. Like, my wife was a massive help. Like, she's really switched on. And so we sort of did that together. But my business partner and me were so similar. We loved tiling, but we weren't businessmen at all. And I think just that how much we enjoyed the trade and the standard that we held ourselves to just kept us in good stead, but it definitely wasn't our business acumen that drove us forward. But what I am noticing now is that I talk to a lot of, even the employers that have apprentices at TAFE, their business partner often isn't a tiler. They're someone that organises the business and does all the paperwork, the quoting and all that kind of thing. And those businesses are actually doing really well. And I never even thought about that as an option. When I was younger, that wasn't even on the table. So I think definitely, and I'm talking about that with the students as well, to just understand how businesses work, how to set up accounts, how to work with accountants and things like that. And also just make sure you're profitable when you go out on your own. Sometimes these kids just want to get the job and they're happy to be tiling and they think they're making a lot of money. But when you actually start putting it all that money in its correct space, you realise you're not as profitable as maybe you thought you were. So just getting students to really break it down, have an Excel spreadsheet or whatever it might be, so that they can do that.
Yeah, look, it's really important. It's a topic that we've touched on quite frequently in the past. I typically tend to ask past contractors about, the profitability and how they operate their business and how do they know they're making money. And it's a really important question. And frankly, there's quite a few people that I think have very successful businesses, but they don't intimately know the incomings and outgoings of their business. However, they make it work, and that's good, and that's okay. That's okay that they're doing that. However, if you want to elevate and go further, you really need to have a grasp on those numbers, because there's a big difference between cash flow and profitability. Cash flow can keep the business going, but that doesn't mean you've got money to pay all the bills. So you've got to really have a keen eye for numbers. And I think it goes back to your point before when you talk about mathematics and, if there's any, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a few apprentices listening to this particular program, I highly encourage people to seek out, some of those courses. I mean, where I am in Queensland, just to share a quick story, they have a thing called Brisbane Hub, and it's run by the state government and probably more so the local Brisbane City Council. And they put on courses all of the time in the CBD for free, and they're marketing courses, and they're how to win tender courses, and they are social media marketing courses, and they're literally absolutely 100% free. All you have to do is sign up and turn up. So there are plenty of resources out there to actually get that information without it costing you a cent. And I'm sure that other states are doing something similar. You just have to search for it.
Well, even through North Metro TAFE as well. Like there's business courses that you can do, short courses that you can do that help with that sort of thing. We have a job skills centre here. I find it just amazing, the kind of stuff we have here at TAFE. Like, there's a job skills centre, it's absolutely free, helps students write resumes, hook them up with employers. So, it's all out there. It's just a matter of just educating yourself and figuring out what's out there for you to take advantage of.
Yeah, and then one step further, if you really want to educate yourself around the industry, get on, listen to the podcast, go back to episode 1 and make your way through the first 60 episodes, because we've just launched episode 60. So there's some brilliant learnings. Just subscribe now. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. No, look, hey, moving forward, what would you say, Adam, about expectations of apprentices? Have they changed over the years? How do you get someone to, really lift to the challenge of being an apprentice? Do you have any sort of secrets that you want to share with us?
Yeah, look, I'm really impressed with the people that come through, the guys and girls that are coming through, hold themselves to, they have high expectations of themselves. They want to do well. Like, this is their career, this is their life. So I'm just constantly impressed by our students and the work that they're doing. They are a different generation to like our generation. They learn differently. They take in content differently. And as lecturers, that's our challenge. Like, we can't be stuck in the past with, the way my boss just yelled at me and I was like, yeah, no worries. Like, I just ran, like bringing more barrows of screen, and I just ran them in. Whereas I think the new generation, you can reason with them. You can talk about how this benefits them. But we're using all different kinds of things at TAFE, and we're trying to see, what sticks with these young guys, like what guys and girls, how do they learn? We're using, like, in the classroom, we have different programs. Kahoot's one of them, which is it's kind of like an online sort of board game, or not a board game, but like a quiz show type thing. So we might do that. Yeah, we might do a whole unit on waterproofing, and then, you'll be a thing like, show me the definition of a water stop, or what's the fall ratio in a shower. And, they're all thinking, there's little prizes I do and stuff like that just to get them into it. I get them to make content. So, like something like work health and safety can be a little bit of a trudge sometimes for these kids. Like, they want a tile. Yeah. But if you get them to make a video on, all the different fire classes and the different fire extinguishers that they need to use to put them out, and they need to put together a little video content to do that, they get a bit excited about it, and then that sort of goes in. So there's a lot of ways that we really try to help these guys. I think to help them rise to challenges, we need to be at our best. We need to be constantly thinking, how do I challenge these kids in an engaging way, and how do I give them confidence so they can reach those challenges? And for me personally, it's like, we're trainers and assessors.
Yeah.
But I would put the big emphasis on training. So if we do the most training, the best training we can give, the assessment should be a breeze. It should just be something they enjoy doing. So how we get them to rise to those challenges is just by doing our jobs, really, and just trying our best. Yeah.
But also from what you're saying, adapting as well to modern techniques and using app development sort of stuff that's been out there like Kahoot, and it's important to get people engaged. And I even found that at World Skills, the first question came up when we were doing a debrief before the competition kicked off was about using phones, and all of them asked that question. It's all about, can we? And it's like, no, you can't. But clearly, it was on the tip of everyone's tongue when we were doing the debrief. So it's interesting. I mean, you growing up in that trade, you wouldn't have had that in the first 10 years of your tiling life, and. So it's very different.
And, every time we do a project, I'll probably talk a little bit about this in a little bit, but every time we do a project, they're working off a set of plans. So it's not a craft project. We're not coming in here to do a craft project. We're doing construction projects. So everything they do, they have a set of plans. And I used to print them out and laminate them. I still do that a little bit, but now we use a Teams app, and I just send it to them, and they've all got it on their phone. And it's actually really cool to see a student. He's got his measuring tape out, and he's trying to center his wall up, and he's got his phone. He's like, "Yep, no, that's all working out." And I don't know, it's just a cool feeling to see him ticking over it and doing that work. So,
nice.
Yeah, and you can reach them. Sometimes, like, kids just get reached when you get them working as a team. Like we do this day. We did it on Wednesday, where I've got 11 students in my pre-app, and they've all got their own bathroom that they're going to completely tile. And we got up to the bit where we screed it. And for pre-apps, I don't necessarily need them to know how to screed their bathroom. I need them to know how to mix a perfect screed, get it in, load up. Maybe we set heights the day before, so maybe put my lines in for me. So I actually screed that whole day. And the challenge is you've got to stay ahead of me. I never want to be standing around. And I've got kids running in and like barrows in, and they're sweating and they're yelling at each other to get things done. And it's such a cool vibe in the workshop. And so you can just engage them by that teamwork environment as well. Just like we're all in this together. Like we're getting this done by the end of the day, and it's going to happen. And then they don't realise it, but they're learning so much. How do I keep my mixer clean? How do I do these mixers? How do I load up a room for a tiler who's going to do a screed? It's cool. It's really cool.
Awesome, mate. Love it. It's a little bit like the Olympics tiling style. That's cool. Tell me about what you have seen or possibly have seen as some of the common misconceptions about becoming a tiler that you often, have to address in the classes and dispel the myths amongst the students.
Yeah, like there's a few.
What's a big one?
I think for me the biggest myth is that it's bad for your back and your knees, and I mean, like it's not great for your back and your knees. Everyone says that. Like, I was thinking about tiling, but I heard it's not good for you. I usually just reply to that with like, no trade is great for your body, but it's really up to you to get your body in the shape that it needs to be for the trade. So AFL players keep their body in shape so they can play that crazy game of AFL. Tilers just need to do what they need to do. And everyone's different, eat good foods, get enough sleep, that kind of thing. But a bit of a misconception, I find that I get a lot of pre-apps come through and they've chosen tiling because it's creative.
Yeah.
And like it's an art form. Like my business was called Stone Art Tiling. I totally see tiling as an art form. But it is creative, but not necessarily in the sense that a lot of students think it is. We're part of a creative process.
Yes.
Like we're an integral part of a creative process, but there's so many people that make up that. Designers, interior decorators, architects, builders, clients. And the way that we get our creativeness across is to be meticulous, to follow instructions down to a T, to follow sets of plans. And the longer you can show a builder that you are like that, the more they come to you and ask your opinion on things. But that trust is built over years of you being meticulous and being a team player in that creative process. So I think a lot of students think they're going to come in and just do really creative mosaic work or things like that. And we do that. But really, I'm getting them ready for industry. So I'm getting them ready to deliver what a builder wants, what a client wants. What's a client going to think? Like I often say, never leave your bay messy, because just imagine you're going to go home and a client's going to come home from their work and they're going to have a look in your bay. And if you've got glue on your tiles or on your tools, they're going to form an opinion. And so everything we do is just based around industry and trying to teach them that. One more misconception is
please
that
share.
some students don't know how hard it's going to be. It is hard work. And part of my role is to get them to enjoy that aspect of it. There's a lot of enjoyment in working hard and achieving something. And I think all kids sort of come in and they don't have that. Like, it would be ridiculous to think they're going to come in and be like great hard workers that really value hard work, because they're kids a lot of times.
Yeah.
So for me to kind of slowly build that appreciation in them, and they get there because they see the work that they're doing. They feel themselves getting stronger over the course, carrying boxes of tiles, bringing in barrows. They feel fitter and stronger, and mentally they're getting tougher. They're doing full days of work in the workshop sometimes. I often do half a day classroom, half a day workshop, but sometimes we do a full day in the workshop. There are a couple of the misconceptions that we try to help our students with.
But there's some really, really good topics that you've touched on. They're things that I've seen in the industry in the time that I've been working in it, and yeah, it's on the money. I appreciate you putting that down and making that and explaining that further, because I think people will take a fair bit away from that, and that's really important too. A quick word from our sponsor. Partner with Gripset and become one of Australia's leading waterproofers. Waterproofing is one of the most in-demand trades. With Gripset's accredited practitioner program, GAP, you'll be trained and certified in just 3 days. Backed by Australia's leading waterproofing supplies manufacturer and run by trainers with over 20 years of experience within the industry, GAP gives you a wealth of knowledge. Learn how to identify and prevent dampness and water damage in both residential and commercial structures by exploring the current Australian waterproofing standards, correct preparation of substrates for waterproofing, and how to apply both sheet and liquid membranes with a particular focus on the trickier areas such as joints and penetrations. Upon completion, you will be a fully accredited GAP applicator and will be able to access exclusive benefits and free business advertising to expand your clientele. Spots are filling up fast. Upskill today. Visit gripset.com/gap. That's gripset.com/gap, where great applicators get even better. Mate, let's talk about keeping training relevant, which is really important, but I suppose relevant to the ever-changing and evolving world of, adhesives and materials and tiling systems on the market and the types of tiles that are coming into the country. And today we've got, a gazillion different styles, types, thicknesses, colours of tiles compared to 20 years ago. How do you keep everything on point and relevant to your training?
Yeah, well, this is something that TAFE is really big on. They are hiring and paying industry experts, and that's their expectation of what we are. So they work with us in that space, and they really drive us staying on point, like you said. So we're given allocated time each week to stay on top of everything in industry. We call it our currency, keeping current. And there's so many different programs that TAFE put in place to keep us there. They don't just lump that in our lap and say stay current. They work with us in that space. So I've got
nice.
I really like the librarians here at TAFE. Shout out to them. They hooked me up with these headphones this morning, so that was good. They often
teamwork makes a dream work, mate.
Absolutely, and it's a huge team at TAFE. And so they'll always just be flicking the articles, anything new in the industry that they come across. We're part of the Tiling Council. I saw your interview a couple of weeks ago talking about the Tiling Council. Part of that, staying on track with all the stuff that they're putting out. They also have a thing called the CLIP program that we run here at TAFE, where they'll actually send us out in industry for stints to brush up on areas we think we're getting a little bit, forgetful of, or whatever it might be. If I could think of one for myself, it's been a while since I've tiled a swimming pool. So that'll probably be my next CLIP program assignment. Go out there, work with some swimming pool tilers, refresh my memory on all things pools related. So they really do. They work with us in that space. And for me as well, and I think every lecturer here, we're lecturing because we really like tiling. And when you're not doing it day in, day out, you actually get really nostalgic for it. Like you really want to do it again. Like when you're doing it day in, day out, you're running your business. It's work, right?
Yeah.
But when you're teaching it, like I had my school holidays. We have holidays in the school holidays, and we had our holidays. I think I lasted 2 days, and I was retiling our fireplace. And my wife's just like, "What are you doing, man? Like, just relax." but you get a little bit nostalgic for it, and so that's a great way to stay up to date, is just to use the products. Like if there's a product you haven't used before, I know tile leveling systems like the clip systems or lippage reduction systems. Working with a lot of stone, they weren't something we used a lot of. Like we screeded all our main floors and we just didn't use them much. But I'm going out on site now and I'm seeing awesome work and tilers using these clip systems. So it's not about me. It's about what's actually going on out there. So my pre-apps, next week we're doing 600 by 600s on their floors, and they'll be using those clip systems. I want them. How do you prepare the glue to slide that clip in, and all those little things that if they know and go out in the industry, they're going to impress an employer. So it's like I think TAFE recognises that as like really critical that we stay up to date, and they keep us accountable in that space.
Yeah. Adam, I have to say, and I was going to save this for the end, but I thought it would be better to mention it now whilst it's on the tip of my tongue. But I am surprised that we have such a skill shortage of trades in this country, given the amount of electric energy that you're giving across in this interview today. And I've got to be honest, mate, look, I haven't interviewed many, I haven't interviewed any TAFE teachers before now. You are definitely the first, and I know a lot of TAFE teachers and lecturers around the country. But mate, I'm hoping that the TAFEs out there are listening to this, because if everyone, and I know everyone's different, but if everyone had the same amount of energy as we have on this interview today, it would encourage more young people to have a look at trades, whether it be tiling or another field. Because I know my young son's. He's in plumbing. He's about to click over to his second year apprenticeship in plumbing, and he's stoked because he's getting a significant pay increase. And awesome. But he's worked his ass off, for where to get to that point. But mate, thank you for being you, and thank you for obviously giving the amount of energy that you do into the teaching. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah, well, thanks for that. That's really nice of you to say. But honestly, we're really well supported here. I'm part of a team, and it's not even just the tilers. Like, my tiling lecturers, the colleagues I work with are just like some of my best mates. Like we love the trade. We love doing what we do. But the bricklaying lecturers, the plastering, all the mortar trades, I had that little family environment that I worked in with the guys that I worked with. And I feel like I've sort of got that here as well, which is bit crazy when you think of how big TAFE is and how many lecturers there are. So they're really doing a good job here of creating that vibe. So it's awesome. Not just me. Everyone's at the level.
Definitely not, mate. And surely if you're in an environment that's that electric, I can see that. Yeah, there would be a team of people that are behaving in the same sort of way that you are. So kudos to everyone. Let's have a touch on, a few final questions before we wrap up today. But when we talk about, Certificate 3 in wall and floor tiling, and I know that Western Australia is a bit different to some of the states on the eastern seaboard because you guys don't do waterproofing. Is that correct?
No, we do all our, tilers are expected to do the waterproofing in WA.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so
that's a big one.
yeah, 100%. And it's such it's the foundation of getting the bathroom or a wet area correct, right? Do you find that there is, I suppose I should ask, what do you find students find or typically find the most challenging part of their trade to learn, and what do you need to do to support them through that? Yeah,
I think it all should feel challenging. So if we're doing our job right, it should engage them in a good way, challenge them in a real good way. And so you've got, measurements and calculations is challenging. The theory component of that, it's stuff they've maybe already know, like area of a room or volume or circumference. But then the practical component of that, when we did our screed the other day on Wednesday, when we did that big screed together, I got them to tell me at the end of the day, I said, break up into pairs, and I want you to tell me how much sand we used. And I want you to think about what we've learned, go away, discuss it, come back to me. And every student came back and said, we used 1.7 cubes. And it was exactly what we used. And so just trying to get them to use those things in a practical way is they do find challenging at the start. But hopefully as their apprenticeship continues, we want to challenge them more and more. Because like you know what it's like as a tiler. I feel like every job I ever walked into, I'd walk into these huge homes and I'd still feel overwhelmed a little bit after like 15 years of tiling. And I'd look around and go, how am I going to do this? And then you just chip away at it. Like you screed it, it looks a bit better. You set it out, looks a bit better again. And you just work your way through it. But it's only because you've got that confidence that you've done it again and again. They can't call back on that. So it's all really challenging for them. And I do feel for them. They put themselves under a lot of pressure sometimes. But we've just got to be there to support them through it. So like one of the ones that I would say is most challenging is we've got like a cylinder, like a pier, and they have to brick it up, plaster it, work out its circumference, choose the amount of tiles they want to tile around it, divide it by that many tiles, allow for a grout joint. Maybe they have to do a half miter on one side of every tile to get the joints right. And they've got to like work through this. Like once they're getting assessed on it, it's over to them. You know, we train them, but once the assessment starts, it's over to them to do it. And I think I flicked you a picture of it.
Let's have a look at that now.
So traditionally, not something we see a lot of in industry, but that's that one there. So traditionally, obviously not something we see a lot of in industry, but the principles that they've used there, we use in industry all the time. So the first thing they've done is screeded that floor. So they've had to do a nice level floor that they've screeded. Then they've worked out the circumference of the project they've wanted to do. They've drawn that out on the floor. They've bricked up that pier. They've rendered it. And they've done all the calculations that require that. And that pier needs to be plumb, and the top needs to be level, and it needs to be basically a perfect circle for them to pass that course. And I think for a kid of like maybe 19, 20, by the time they're in their third year, like that's amazing for me. Like I look at that and I just think, you know, you can do anything. If you can do that, you can put your mind to basically anything and get through it. And if you go back to that last picture, this is a bit
let's bring that up.
So this was a write-up. This was me when I was a lot more handsome, when I was about 22 or 23, a bit more hair on my head.
I was going to say, mate, you had the curls there.
Yeah, a few curls. But yeah, like this one here. So I imagine I was probably like 22 or 23 at the time. And this was the first house to ever have curlite sheets in, or laminate sheets, you know, the 3 metre.
I remember curlites.
Yeah. And so this write-up is about how I was the first tiler in WA ever to lay this product. And it was so overwhelming and scary when, you know, and there was 3 mil thick at the time, like it's 6 mil now, a lot more manageable. It was 3 mil, and it came with a DVD from Italy. And all I had was watch the DVD, which was mostly in Italian, and try to work out how to lay this stuff, how to cut it, how not to break it. But yeah, like just the confidence I had as a young tiler, I'm probably not even that confident now, but the confidence I had as a young tiler that I could just apply the principles that I was taught. And if I just applied those principles when I was laying 600 by 300s or 600 by 600s, plumb, level, full coverage behind my tile, all those sorts of things, then I could actually do it. And that's kind of just what I want to get across to these students. They obviously don't have heaps of confidence because they're so new to the trade. They're watching their bosses. And a shout out straight away to all the employers as well. They, like I said before, they do the lion's share. Any confidence the kids do have comes from them. It comes from the awesome training they're doing. But yeah, they see their bosses who are just like these gun tilers that have been tiling their whole career, and they think, you know, why can't I do this?
Yes.
For us to kind of facilitate that, it's awesome. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, mate. Wrapping up on a couple of final questions. One of the ones that I'm particularly interested in people's opinions on is we talk about the perspective and future of tiling and what it's going to look like in terms of innovation, and particularly what training needs will be required in the future. If we have a look at where we're at today with AI and robotics and the advancements in technology that are coming through, whilst I believe there is still a very big price tag to a lot of this type of advantage. How do you see things today from where you sit?
Yeah, like I personally use AI a lot in training. I draw up all my plans that I want the students to deliver, so they'll get a set of elevation plans. But it's pretty cool. I sketch them up on like a note-taking app, and I drop it into AI. I drop it into AI, and it'll give me a full elevation plan, and it will give me like a 3D render of what that bathroom's going to look like when it's finished. And so for me, it's really working for me at the moment. I'm enjoying using those products. Short term, we're not really talking to our students too much about that. I reckon short term, where the industry's heading is still in that dust management kind of space. Sweeping changes through stonemasonry. Like if you go through our stonemasonry workshop at the moment, it's like going into NASA. They're like astronauts walking around in these crazy breathers and all this sort of stuff. And I think that is really going to move into tiling. I saw you had Brian Figueroa on a few months ago from IQ Saws.
IQ, yep.
Yeah, and we use a lot of IQ Saws here at TAFE, and that brilliant product. Like we really do cut dust down. But what we're trying to do at TAFE is we're trying to look at everything. We're a government department. We need to be at the forefront of this stuff, and we need to keep our students safe. Like that is actually our biggest priority as lecturers, is keep our students safe, teach them in a safe environment. And that's acute hazards like getting something in your eye, but it's chronic hazards like something that could happen to them years from now. So we're really trying to look after our students. So we're doing a lot of things in that space. IQ saws, wet saws. We've actually just introduced pneumatic wet grinders, which I don't know if it's just new, but I just think are the coolest things ever. They
talk us through that. What are pneumatic grinders?
Yeah, so you imagine just your standard grinder that every tiler's got in his kit that he's using to do miters or L cuts or door frame cuts or whatever it is. It looks exactly like that. In fact, they actually are easier to handle because they don't need as much bulk, so they're easier to hold. They have a water line that just comes from your hose, and it just goes into a little tube that goes into the grinder, and it has an air line. So here at TAFE, that's easy. We have air compressors that we run. So they just act like exactly the same as a grinder. Obviously, they use air because you can't have electricity and water sort of mixed together. I love them because I've been rattling a few miters off on them, and because they keep the tile so nice and cool, you can get so close to the edge of that tile without it chipping. It's so much more effective than an actual grinder that we normally use. And we use the exact same blades. So you're just getting whatever brand blade you use and you're whacking it on there. I don't know what that looks like out on site. Like, does that mean that we become like chippies and we have air compressors in a little trailer and that's how we do things from now on? It sounds a little crazy, but I can see it because we're introducing this to our apprentices. They're seeing how cool that stuff is. They're seeing zero dust. They're not covered in dust at the end of the day. They're not like banging their clothes off. They're doing beautiful cuts. Tiles aren't having those little burrs and chips because they're cool as we're doing it. So they're seeing the benefits of it. So we're introducing them to stuff that they just haven't seen on building site. And then we're just letting them be the future of the industry. Like they'll take the industry where it needs to go. But from what we're hearing and from what we see in industry, like dust is an issue. It's a big issue in our industry, and there's some awesome brands and awesome people working really hard, and we just want to be on board with everything. We want to give the apprentices every option in that space.
And look, that is the best attitude to have about protecting workers and giving them and feeding them as much information as possible and educating people, and then letting them make the most accurate, effective decisions for themselves. But if they don't have access to that information, then it makes it very difficult for them to go, well, what's going to keep me safe versus what's not going to keep me safe, and what brands should I be looking at? So, I get that. I think it's important, from a messaging perspective. I think it's also very important for departments and institutions to make the right decisions and ensure they're measured as well, measured and balanced. I think sometimes, and I'm just speaking outside, and this is just my opinion from my 23 years experience, I think sometimes we tend to rule with an iron fist first and then look at everything after, second. Yeah. When, we're talking about these sort of topics, I think you need to look at, the entire spectrum of issues before going, well, let's just do a compulsory ban on a product in a heartbeat without actually looking at all the data, and look at the data first and then make, the most measured response. But look, it's such a it's a tough topic to have one. There's not just one opinion or way of looking at it. There's so much about it, but good. It's good that you're offering tons of different options to the students, so they've got access to it.
I think you're 100% right. It's like sometimes they'll make a call, but it's like, can it actually be done? Like in reality, can our tradesmen actually do this? And I think that's why we're showing them all of these dust reduction, whatever it might be, even in any aspect of our training. We're showing them everything, but they're TAFE lecturers don't get to choose what happens in industry. We don't have that power. It's the tilers themselves, so they'll take what they've learnt here, and even the way we teach, like, there's different, like, I'm probably I think I'm the youngest lecturer maybe here, and then it goes up from there. And the way we teach is different. So, like, I'll teach them methods that other lecturers might teach them something different. They're both right. They're both effective. And then it's really up to that student to go, actually, I really like that's a little bit old school and I like it. Or, that's a new way of doing that. I haven't seen that before. So it's a cool environment, and it empowers students to then make their own choices, I think.
Yeah, precisely. Excellent, mate. Look, last question for the day. What advice would you give to experienced tradies who might be considering stepping into a teaching or mentoring role similar to what you've done?
I would say go for it. If it's something you think you would enjoy doing, I would say absolutely have a look at, contact TAFE, see what the process is. For me, the process was entering into a interview to get into a casual pool, and I just did that casually for a while. It's such a good way to sort of dip your toe into it's a big change. It's just as hard, just in different ways. Like, tiling's hard work. This is also a lot of hard work, but just as satisfying. I think tilers do the trade because we love walking into a shell of a room and walking out and creating something beautiful. TAFE lecturers have a similar feeling. Like, you get a student who's green, who hasn't had a lot of experience, and they walk away, or maybe they come back years later, they have their own business or whatever it is, and it's an awesome feeling. So you get the same sort of satisfaction out of this job. Yeah.
Adam, thank you so much for today. You've been an absolute bloody rock star, and I really appreciate you going in depth with a lot of the answers to the questions that we've thrown at you today. We always love to finish off the show by connecting our guests with the community. If there's an opportunity for people to reach out and connect individually, or obviously it's North Metro TAFE, although it is in WA, so Queenslanders, unless you're moving over there. Yeah, mate. How does the community connect in with you if they wanted to find you, or is it via North Metro TAFE? How does that happen?
Yeah, I'm a bit old school. I don't have much of a social media presence, so it'll have to be through TAFE. But I really encourage anyone that's got any questions about this process, or, I teach pre-apprentices, and I'm always looking to put them out on work experience with good tradespeople that really can share their knowledge with them and hopefully take them on as an apprentice. So I'm always looking to talk to people. So I'm guessing we can probably link my email. So it's adam.agostino@nmtafe.wa.edu.au. But I'm hoping we could probably put that in the description.
Yes. Everything will go on the show notes, so we'll definitely put that down there, and we'll also obviously put the website for the North Metro TAFE as well, so that they've got full access to the wonderful staff and teachers and lecturers that are there, and the team behind you, and the different trades and stuff. Because obviously, we are a tiling podcast, but there are other trades out there, so I'm sure that you can have a chat to some of the other teachers in the cohort there and find out a bit more. But mate, again, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. And until next time, stay connected and keep being amazing and keep punching out great apprentices, mate, for the employers and for industry, which is even more important because we've got a decade in front of us of a lot of building to happen. And whilst I'm not putting in a plug for Queensland too much, we need a lot of people over here in the next 10 years because with the Olympics coming. So if you want to change to the Sunshine State for just for a few years, we could do with you.
No, thanks so much, Mark. It's been a real pleasure to come on. I've been listening to the show since a friend introduced me to it. And it's a privilege, mate. It's awesome to come on and have a chat to you. So thanks heaps.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tiling Connect. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast. To see more of Tiling Connect, jump on our socials and follow us via LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook. If you'd like to be part of the show, email us at tilingconnect@gmail.com. Until next time, stay connected.